if you definitely need 7 French, and I still wonder what 7 French I need at this point. But if you still need 7 French, you definitely didn't have to go groin. You mentioned something about, what about, if something bad happened? And I love that question. I really, this is my favorite question to be asked, because I believe that going radial and having a complication of the iliac from the radial is the safest thing to happen. Because what's it going to do? Inflate the balloon from the radial. You have a nice tamponading, have all the time in the world to stick groin, 7 French, 8 French, put my wire through, put a cover stent, deflate the balloon, deploy the stent. Let's say you're ipsilateral and you have a perforation from the groin. It is extremely difficult to do the same thing. You're going to have to inflate the balloon, try to go up and over. You don't have a room to put your wire. And, iliac rupture, in my opinion, is the most stressful intervention, is the complication you can have. People worry about coronary perforation. I don't think they've seen an iliac perforation. That's my approach, but I think there is a debate there. The way I look at radial intervention is in 3 categories. One is the radial is 100%. I think that's me, but I don't expect people to do so. I think Shay is the same thing, you is the same thing, if in case it does not CLTI. 2 is people who do it in most of the cases, but selectively they say, I don't have the equipment. And 3rd, I think elective or selective radialists, and I think those are the one that's very helpful. I stopped doing occluded common iliac via groin long time ago. It's just much easier from the radial. What about you guys? What was your first ever radial case that you looked at and you was like, man, I wish I learned this before?
Yeah, so for me, actually, Sam, this is really good. Just understanding, I got the question from my fellows as well as, what was the genesis for going radial? It seems like a lot, you're over here and then you're fixing something down here, laying, especially coronary fellows. And for me, actually, my first case, which I'll never forget, was a case that actually was the only way I thought that I could actually help this patient. She had 8 procedures, multiple coronary interventions through the groin, morbid obesity, an antegrade attempt prior with a severe hemorrhage. So mentally, she was scarred from that experience, and she didn't want her femorals to be touched if possible. She came in with rest pain. It was a distal SFA P1 segment occlusion. I was 1 vessel runoff. So I typically in those cases, I reserve actually getting into that space only if I have to. And so with bilateral iliac kissing stents done about 8 years ago. So it was up and over, was not going to be desired. And really tibial-pedal, we talk about the other alternative access sites, which I'm sure both of you do quite well. I don't have that down in terms of just sticking the popliteal and being really confident that we're going to get great hemostasis. And so at that time, I was definitely not doing those kind of cases. So I decided on the table, we're going radial. And we were successful. We went left radial. We were able to fix the blockage. This was a time where we didn't have DCBs. So we did angioplasty. We did plaque modification. We got a nice result. She left the same day. But what I didn't realize was how amazing she felt with the experience. She said, I've had over 8 procedures. This was something that I could leave in 2 to 3 hours. And she never stopped complimenting us on that. And then I finally triggered a whole nother thing, is understanding that the faster ambulation, potentially obviously safer from a bleeding perspective, 3, patient satisfaction and turnaround time played a huge role. While that was a huge undertaking for our lab to understand, okay, now we're going to take something from the left radial all the way down to the right SFA. I'm going to be successful in crossing the CTO and then fixing this. That was a whole nother thing. But I think, when reflecting on the first cases, you realize that this is feasible. It's something that really is beneficial, and the staff plays a huge role in understanding that now patients can really benefit from something much safer. So I think, as you were saying, it's something that kind of happened fortuitously, but has really improved kind of our workflow and treatment algorithm for some of these patients.
And Shay, like you said, this is a huge benefit from a workflow standpoint. This kind of stands out now that ASCs and OBLs are a sizable portion of where these procedures are done. So that's a massive plus from that standpoint.